All right, I know I asked a question before, but just to preface this, I know this is going to piss off probably everybody in the room, but you said that this was kind of open mic, kind of what I want to bring up is two incidents. The first happened on this campus roughly about a month ago, where a guy named Nate Baker, as a junior, was just plowed over and ruthlessly killed by some illegal immigrant in a car, and he was wanted by ICE, all that stuff. But the real incident I want to talk about is what happened in Frisco, Texas, about a month ago, which was the murder of Austin Metcalf by Carmelo Anthony. And why has Donald Trump not said a single word about this issue? How long are we going to let white people be murdered in the streets before we do something? I am tired of this.
Well, no, I mean, see, I see some of you guys are laughing, but the reality is if it was the other way around, you guys would be burning down the city. If we're going to be honest here, right? Got the black one in the back screaming and laughing at him. But at least, no, hold on, let me, because this is the thing, because a couple of the people here are laughing at your rage, but I find it interesting that if it was the other way around, they can burn down a city like Minneapolis over George Fentanyl, but if he goes ahead and expresses some rage, you guys laugh at him, which is interesting to me because they can't be honest about this, where there is seriously a problem in America where a small percentage of people are committing a majority of the violent crime. What? Black men account for maybe 8% of the population, but they're committing something like 50 to 60% of the violent crime, and they can't talk about this, right? So I do think that there's a problem here where we need to address black culture. We need to address the degeneracy. We got to address the violent gang and rap culture, and it's an issue. And the thing is that guys like him can't speak up about it. He speaks up about it, and then we got black girls in the back laughing at him. But when they kill a black man, y'all are rioting all over the place and burning cities down, and nobody says anything to you guys. So I think he has a right to be pissed off. I was pissed off when I saw it.
I just have kind of a follow up to that. I just have a follow up to that. You talking about this is kind of like a socioeconomic thing, a culture thing. Well, if that's true, why have the crime rates kind of stayed the same since the '60s, since the civil rights movement, even before rap music? Speaking on that rap music, why doesn't rap music make white people go just murder people in the streets? Is this a culture thing, or is this just simply a race issue?
There's a couple things. Now, this is going to be very controversial, but it's an IQ thing too. Yeah. It's an IQ thing, and this is what's banned a lot of the times. I got to kind of wear on YouTube, so I'll kind of say this in code word. But it's a multitude of different things. It's culture, it's IQ, it's heritage. All these things play a role. But yeah, there's a bunch of different issues, right? It's a two-tier justice system. There's so many different things that play into it. But I have a saying: around the blacks, never relax. So take from that what you will.
Living around white people is not a human right. You don't get to live with us all the time. All right, this is our country that we built. Yeah, white immigrants built this country. Thank you. Read the Naturalization Act of 1790.
No, it's the truth. This country was founded by white Protestant.
And yes, I understand that black people have been a part of this country since the beginning because of slavery, and I'm not.
I think the girls over there don't like what you're saying.
I know that. Yeah. Yeah, and the logical consequence of slavery is that you have these people displaced in this country, and at the time maybe the better choice should have been to just send them back to Africa, because clearly they can't integrate in a proper society and live with us without just murdering each other in the streets. So it really kind of makes you think, well, now it's baked in now. What can we do about it? It makes you think it's not a culture issue, it's not socioeconomics, it's not religion. Then what is it?
Yeah, no, I mean IQ does play a huge role in it, and that's the thing that people don't like to discuss. But yeah, no, that's true, man. The truth hurts sometimes for people. But yeah, they've done meta-analysis on this with IQ and race, and the data doesn't lie. In general, black people tend to have lower IQs, so it is what it is.
I've met Myron. I respect what he has built, but this is something I disagree with him on strongly, and really what pushed me away from him. He has a very white supremacist mindset. And maybe that comes from his parents. A lot of immigrants do have that type of mindset. And I know this is a very different video than what you guys are used to seeing. And I'm not one to talk about race too often, but I think this is important because Myron has a huge audience. A lot of young guys watch him, and now he's pushing this narrative that black people are inferior. They just have low IQ. And that is very far from the truth, and I think it's very hurtful. And even this white student, he's up there telling lies. He said the crime rate's been the same since the 1960s. That's not the case. In the early 1990s, it shot up, and there's a reason for that. So this dude's up there, he's lying. You can tell he's very hateful, very racist. You can look at his body language and bro's an incel. He doesn't have anything going on. And a lot of people that really cling to this whole race thing, they don't feel good about themselves. He's not doing good in life. So now he's got to blame black people. He got to go talk about this dude that got stabbed in Texas, and he gets so attached to it. Oh, Donald Trump needs to talk about this, and very much in his feelings. And the way Myron responded, I couldn't have been more disappointed. And I really hate it because I do agree with a lot of Myron points. Not everything, but a good bit of what his talking points I agree with. But this whole thing that black people are inferior and have low IQ is crazy to me. And they don't always want to go to the root of things, And the dude's talking about, oh, they should go back to Africa. It's like, well, buddy, where are your ancestors from? You aren't from here either. And the thing is, he said, white people built America. What you have to realize is they built it off the backs of black people. right? What really made America the superpower is it had all that free labor for such a long time. You know, those plantations were making a lot of money. And for him to just be like, you know, after slavery, we should have sent them back to Africa, that's crazy to me. And see, a lot of things aren't being taught in school that should be taught in school. You know, and I think a lot of white people don't realize how big of an impact black people really had. You know, they came up with a lot of inventions, but they were stolen from them. You know, and even a lot of breakthroughs with medicine and things of the sort, they had the opportunity to do that because they were testing on slaves like lab rats. You know, so this whole idea that black people really didn't play much of a role in the white man created America and all this stuff it's bogus, man. And I think the fact that people don't want to acknowledge that, don't want to say the truth, because Myron talks like he's all about the truth, but he's not. He's all about pushing that white supremacy agenda. You know, and it's a very sad thing and unfortunate thing that a guy with that big of a following would just roll with it. Like, no, he's right. He's right. He's right. You know, it's like, let's talk about why blacks are locked up so often. Let's talk about the fact why it's like this. It's because they've been programmed to be this way. And, you know, my dad told me a while ago, he's like, you know, you're very ignorant when it comes to history. So I try to learn more about history because he was right. You know, my dad grew up in 1960 and he said, you know, there were certain water fountains he couldn't go to. He couldn't swim in the swimming pools. He had to swim in the swamp. You don't think that affects somebody's mentality and the way they view themselves? And you don't think that's going to affect the way they parent? You know, this stuff doesn't just go away overnight. And that's what a lot of people don't realize. They're like, oh, slavery was this long ago. And it's like, but the government was undermining black people for way past slavery. You know, shoot, they dropped bombs on black people in 1985 in Philly. Killed 5 kids. Burned a whole black neighborhood. Or we can talk about Wall Street. The Black Wall Street. Killed over 300 people. Left over 10,000 people homeless. You keep breaking these people. Anytime they do something good, you off them. You know? And then you wonder why they act crazy when they had a peaceful leader. Right? Martin Luther King, he got killed. But then you get mad when they killing each other. They've been taught to kill each other. They've been taught to hate each other. They've been taught to hate themselves. And I remember I joined a live and this girl was talking about the patriarchy and all this stuff. I said, well, first you need to find out why you hate yourself. I heard Malcolm X say that. He said, who taught you to hate yourself? Because a lot of black people, they hate themselves and they don't realize it. Because this girl, she had a blonde wig, got the fake lashes, and then her neck is like Michael Jackson in 1978, and her face is like Michael Jackson in 2008. You know, two different, completely different tones. And I'm like, and I pointed out, and I'm like, you think white people are superior? It's like, well, no. And she's like going on. She's like, no, I just like this look. Like, she hates herself. She feels like she's inferior. And she told me this. She said, I don't value my hair. There's nothing wrong with that. You know, I've heard some black women say, you know, I just don't like wearing my hair. It's a lot of work. I'm like, okay, I can kind of see it. You know, that's your hair. You should figure out how to make it work without like having to throw on a wig. But she told me I don't value my hair. And I thought that was crazy because this girl hates herself, but she doesn't even realize she hates herself. And that's how a lot of people go. They just cope. They don't get down to the truth. They cope. So when we get to the fact that a lot of black people feel inferior, that's the root of it. They don't value their life the same way a white person values their life. And another big component is they took the father out of the household. You know, when they locked up all these people in the 80s over crack, you know, 5 grams of crack would get you locked up the same amount of time as 500 grams of cocaine. Shout out to Joe Biden. Later on say he made a big mistake. Yeah, but you locked all those people up. You broke up all those families. And this is why I tell, like, you know, a lot of people like, oh, Trump is so racist and stuff like that. I'm like, most of these politicians are racist. Joe Biden's racist and Donald Trump's racist. You know how many people got locked up over that? You know how many families were broken up for that? I don't think people realize how much of an effect not having a role model has in a boy's life. You know, it takes a man to raise a man. I think that's true. It takes a man to raise a man. Now, I'm not saying your father has to be the man that raises you. You know, luckily, a lot of guys have uncles or they go to their coaches and stuff like that. But some guys don't have that. Some guys hit the block because they don't have no role models. So they start gang banging, they start smoking, they start slanging drugs at a young age. And I've seen this firsthand. You know, I had a friend. Now, I don't talk to him anymore. The last 2 times I talked to him, he just asking for money. This was years ago. But I remember a very young age, like 12, 13 years old, he was smoking weed. Because his dad wasn't in the picture. He just had a big brother. His big brother was selling drugs. You know, so he's seen his big brother doing it. So what is he going to do? He doesn't know any better at 12, 13 years old. He like, my big brother's cool. I want to be like him. And like I said, some people don't have that father or a big brother. So now they're looking at the dudes on the block. And if that's what everybody's doing, that's what they're going to do. You know, and I don't think, oh, they have low IQ, so that's why they're doing it. No, that's the only option they see. Sometimes people never see another option. And shout out to Marquette. Like I said, I look at Marquette like one of my mentors, but I realized with Marquette and Steph is Cold, they had like an uncle that showed them a different part of life. They had an uncle that showed them a different part of life where they're like, oh, I don't have to be stuck here. You know, because a lot of guys in the hood, they have that crab in a bucket mentality. People don't realize how damaging that is. People don't realize if you don't see different, then it's hard to do different. You know, so this whole idea that black people just have low IQ and stuff like that, I think that's a very hateful message, and it's definitely not true. Because if you take a white guy, he has both his parents, he eats a healthy diet, he's been taught to care about school, and then you take a black guy, he doesn't care about school at all, he has only his mom, he started smoking weed at 12 years old, who's going to have the higher IQ? It's not just genetics. And this is what I hate, because you have to look at everything. You know, he just made it seem like, oh, that's just the way they are, you know? And that college student, he loved to hear that. He loved to hear that. Oh, it's just they crazy and stuff like that. And he needs to be on a watch list. Honestly, he needs to be put on a watch list. Because when they were talking about burning cities and stuff, he like, we need to do that too. He said something like that. He needs to be put on a watch list. Because that's the type of guy that goes and does a mass offing. That's the type of guy. You can tell he's awkward. He's weird. He keeps going like this. Nah, they need to watch that man. Because he has a true hate towards black people. When you're like, oh, you're privileged to be around white people. That's crazy. That's crazy. And I think it's insane that we still have people that think like that in 2025. Because they're ignorant. They don't understand the history. You know, and I'm be real with y'all. Like, yeah, and my dad says this all the time. He like, when there's a lot of black people together, it can be dangerous. You know, and that's real, dog. Like, a lot of times, even in my time, they have big events where a lot of black people are. Yeah, there's good chance there's going to be a shooting. And I don't like that's the reality, but that is the reality, these YNs. But we have to ask, what made us get here? That's what they don't never want to answer. What actually got us here? Not just, they're just like that because they're stupid. They got low IQ. The culture. The culture was engineered. It was pushed onto them. Like, that's the real, it was pushed onto them. You know, so the system been set up for the black man to fail. The system is still running off of the black man. You know, all these guys locked up in the pen. You don't think society benefits off of that? That's free labor. That's cheap labor. They want it to be like that. Because you look at other jail systems all over the world, it's nothing like America. It's nothing like America. They want it to be like that. It's been programmed to be like that. And you know how many guys were just locked up in the 60s and 70s and the 80s for nothing? A lot of guys were locked up for no reason. And then, like I said, 5 grams of crack would get you the same penalty as 500 grams of cocaine. So guys are getting locked up for a long time for petty crimes. You grow up, your father got locked up. And that was in the 80s and the 90s. That was what, 30-some years ago? That wasn't that long ago. So if your dad went to jail, if your dad was in the pen, yeah, you're more likely going to end up like that too. Because that's what you're seeing. You know, and I really realized this too, man. Because one dude I played football with, he was a couple years younger than me. He had got locked up for a shooting. And I'm just like, why is bro doing this? Like, you know, I didn't go to a ghetto school. You know, it had its moments, but we didn't go to like no hood school for real. So I'm like, why is he doing this? And he got out now, and I seen him post something on Snapchat. And I never seen him post anything about his father. I'm sure he probably doesn't have a father. Just being real about it. But I seen him post something about his mom. And the way his mom was moving, like she was shaking her butt and all types of stuff. I think it was like her birthday or something. But I seen this video and I'm like, his mom was definitely a prostitute. Had to be a prostitute. Just the way she looked, the way she was moving. And he was like, only my mom, man. But I viewed him differently. You know, because at first I'm like, this stupid kid. Like, how you go to the same school as me and you doing shooting and stuff. You ain't need to do that. Like, you on some goofball type of timing. But it's like, if his dad's locked up, his mom is selling her body, how do you think he's going to end up? And probably his mom and his dad didn't have good childhoods at all. You know, a lot of these women that go out here and sell their body, they were victims of sexual assault at a very young age. They had a lot of deep trauma where sex just stopped meaning anything and they could just hit the blade and sell their body because it doesn't mean anything or they don't want it to mean anything. And if you seen your dad getting locked up, like, you don't look at it as a big of a deal. Like my pops did that. I could end up there too. But let's say your pops was an engineer or he owns his own business and stuff like that. You're going to view the world differently. You know, so this whole idea that, oh, white people have higher IQ, it's like, no. And the reason why Asian people do so well, because their culture, I guess you could say the culture is superior, but it just values different things. The Asians, well, they score the highest on testing a lot of times. So you saying Asian people are the smartest? No, their families stay together. That's what it is. The family stays together and they prioritize education more. They push their kids to go be doctors and lawyers and things of that sort. While a lot of black guys, they don't have a father to look up to. A lot of black guys, it's either drug dealing, entertainment, athletics. That's it. So if one guy is trying to become smarter and reading books and all that stuff, and the other guy, he just wants to play football and smoke weed, who's going to have the higher IQ? So this whole thing that is just like inherent is so stupid to me, dog. It's so stupid and it's bullshit, dog. It's bullshit. And the fact that he tried to say it like it's facts, that's some goofball stuff, bro. That's really some goofy stuff. And if you really look at the history, you see how many times white America has tried to hold back black people. And I'm not even the one that like complains about race and stuff like that, but it's just like there's so many different situations where black people are trying to do good for themselves and they get bombed. Boom. They throw drugs in the hood. Boom. Muammar Gaddafi, I believe it was 1996. He tried to donate money to the Nation of Islam, and the FBI got in the way, and they wouldn't let him transfer the money. It's like, why wouldn't you want? So they don't want the black people in America to be financially together. They don't want that. They want you to be struggling. They want you to be scraping by. They want you not to value yourself. They want you to feel inferior. So you buy all these products. So you keep getting locked up and giving free labor. That's what it is. They're not going to tell you the truth, but that's what it is. They don't want you to feel good about yourself. And that's why I say we are going through a loneliness epidemic. We are going through a mental health issues epidemic, but they're not going to speak on it because they need you like that. They need you to feel lonely. They need you to have bad mental health. So you think working more is going to fix everything. You think buying more products is going to make you happy. And that's good for the economy. For the short term, but the long term, you're going to be in bad shape. But this is what you guys need to understand. If you're a black man, you weren't born inferior. It's just the culture, what's been pushed to you has been inferior. The messaging you have got, the parenting you have got has probably been inferior. For a multitude of reasons. But y'all, I'm very disappointed in Myron Gaines. And like I said, the white guy, he's probably an incel. Let's be real. You can tell from his body language, he's kind of a loser. He wouldn't be worried so much about the stabbing in Texas. And I really think this guy needs to be put on a watch list. Like I said, I usually don't talk about race, but I think this is a very important topic because it's not just applying to black people. It's everybody. Realize The way your parents raised you, that affects the way you are. You need to reflect on it and learn from it. A lot of people don't have that awareness, or they don't want to reflect on their childhood because sometimes it can be dark. Sometimes it doesn't feel the best. But that's okay. It's a crucial part of growing. And I just don't like how Myron tried to like oversimplify it. Like, oh, just got low IQ in a bad culture. Like, no. No, my brother. And the reason why black people are where they at right now is the American white man has went to lengths to make sure they stay where they are. It's easier to enslave someone mentally than have someone chained up all the time. You know, and that's kind of where we're at. You've been taught that you're inferior. But this whole thing about scientists, most scientists agree that the racial gaps are mainly environmental. So I'm not sure what he's talking about. Like I said, if you have someone that prioritizes school and they have both their parents, yeah, they're probably going to perform better than the kid that doesn't care about school. And he started smoking at a young age. He started drinking at a young age. Like my dad, he started drinking at 11 years old. He's like, look, we was poor and that's the only thing my dad was buying. You know, so that you guys got to realize that, man. Two of the things that affect your IQ. Yeah, some of it's genetics, but remember, the foods you eat affect your IQ. Trauma can affect it. It's a lot of things that can affect your IQ, man. I don't like this oversimplification. I think it's very damaging if guys don't become aware of what actually is going on. You know, like I said, you know, people complain about how dangerous black people are and stuff like this. But like, well, when they had a peaceful leader in Martin Luther King, he got killed. You know, so the culture is definitely backwards. You know, black women abort more babies than any other race. And, you know, there is a lot of repairing to do. But when I see these messages, it's never anything about repairing. It's more just about bashing and talking down on and white is right. That's all I'm hearing when Myron talks about black people, like white is right. There's something wrong with them. And it's a sad thing. But I think the reason why Myron kind of views it in this point is a lot of migrants are racist against black people, because they come to the country and they're like, we got it together. But a lot of my immigrants come to the country and they have connections, especially like Indian people. Oh, they be having connections. I remember I was messing with this one girl, this one Indian girl, and boy, her parents had connection. Like, oh, my dad owns a factory. My mom, she owns 3 restaurants and all types of stuff. And when they came from India, it's like they worked together. But the black people don't work together because they've been taught to hate each other. And they never got over that. They never got over that. Like, I can't tell you how many house Negro, field Negro jokes I done heard throughout my life. And even when I worked at a soul food restaurant kind of on the edge of the hood, like, there was so many people that call me light skin. Like, that's what they would call me. What's up, light skin? It's like, white person never called me light skin. But the black people, they all light skin, you know what I'm saying? So, that's what I realized, man. Like, it's not anything to do with just inherent genetics. No, it's more to do with the culture, how people view themselves, parenting, and all of that, man. They don't have role models. They don't have aspirations to be more than a drug dealer or a football player or an actor, you know, or a comedian. That's about it. That's where the line ends. So, I think Myron is completely wrong. Like I said, I know this is a very different video. If you appreciated the video, make sure to like. Leave a comment which I want to see next, man. But that's all I got for y'all today. Make sure to like the video, subscribe if you haven't, and I'll catch y'all boys in the next one. Like I said, man, you need to reflect on your childhood because you have to know where you're at to know where you're going.